Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Friday, November 1st, 2019. Alright, so I gotta walk something back, but only like half a step. It's been an interesting week in Magic Twitter. So on Wednesday when I talked about this, I gathered up all my moral outrage and talked about how it's never acceptable to continue to associate when you know something bad's going down. I do want to say that that kind of blanket statement comes from a position of privilege. You know, if I found out on Monday that, my company was protecting a predator, I could absolutely, first I'd call up my contract agency and tell them that I couldn't work there anymore, and if they were like, oh, well, that's your problem, then, I could absolutely put in my notice. I wouldn't even have to put in my notice. I'd just be like, fuck it, I'm out. My husband, on the other hand, in that position, well, we'd have to think about it. His job is what provides us with insurance. So, I stayed at a job for over a year until I actually got laid off. They were downsizing. Boy, was that like an early birthday present. I did that job for, I guess, it's about a year and a half. And, I had health problems, like ulcers and kidney problems from the stress and anxiety from that job. But I stayed there and I did it because we could not afford for me to quit my job. At that time, I was the sole income earner because husband was still trying to find something since, his last job basically downsized him out. For our family of 3 at the time, and I was barely above what was considered poverty level when we did our income taxes for the year. So, at that point, I could have been working for Satan himself, because believe me, I was looking for other jobs, because, that job was maybe somewhat dramatic here, but I really felt like that job was literally killing me with all the health problems. Like, there were times I had to go directly from work to the emergency room for chest pain and shit. Like, it was bad. So, at that point, could have I just up and quit? No. And it's important to remember where you come from. Now, I'm not doing this solely for the sake of Allie Warfield. I don't always agree with Allie Warfield, especially on the notion that your opponent is ever obligated to concede to you. And granted, she's never said that anybody has an obligation to concede to you, but it's frequently one of the, people need to learn when to concede. Well, no, people need to learn to play decks that, win in a reasonable amount of time. Kind of goes both ways. If you're going to play a dirtly ass deck and one of your main win cons is that your opponent concedes, well, that's a you problem, friend. Come on, dude. I couldn't see around the big freaking van. But in any case, so I don't always agree with Allie. Sometimes I feel like she comes across a bit aggressive. So, it's not like, oh, this is my favoriteest Magic personality ever, so I have to, completely change my stance on this to accommodate her. I bring her up because she, publicly outed that she knew before she left Nova what was happening, and chose to finish out the season with them because she was in a bad position. And, yeah, okay. When, you're looking at, well, I could quit, but then I might starve to death. Okay. I still do maintain, though, if you actively help hide the behaviors of a predator, well, you're complicit, and fuck you too. I also believe that anybody with the stance of this guy, well, he's grown and changed since then. I've talked about this before, where as disgusting as I find it, I can kind of understand if you have to explain to somebody that their alpha bullshit predatory comments are actually frightening to people, and, knock it the fuck off. Don't expect me to be polite when I explain this to you. But, okay, maybe I can understand if you were raised in the generation of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, so words don't matter. Yeah, I was raised in that generation. I personally could not fucking care less what any random person on the internet has to say about me. Well, that doesn't make me better than anybody. I'm actually an incredibly damaged person. That's the thing. You can't break me because I'm already broken. So, doesn't make me better by any stretch. Just nobody can compete with the shit brain tails me on the daily basis. But to have it explained to you that forced intercourse is wrong, no, just the whole person is garbage. That there's, in my personal viewpoint, take it for what you will, there's no coming back from that. There's no growing and evolving from that point. So, that's where we are. Again, I'm walking it back a little bit, but it's only like half a step. If you were in the position to do something about it, or to disassociate, and choose not to, no. But I can understand an exception for somebody who's really not in a position to do that. Because the capitalist wonderland machine here in the U.S. really forces people to, like, back when we were broke, well, when we got slightly better from being broke, we were trudging along, but we were making it. We were making it paycheck to paycheck. We had a little bit of extra money for Christmas for the kids. And yeah, you can bet I went to fucking Walmart and bought presents for them because the money would go further there. Even though, like, I think it's a terrible corporation and it represents a lot of things that I have a problem with. I still did it because I valued, being able to give my children somewhat of a normal life. So, I have made immoral decisions when in a position of that kind of nature. So, alright, I get it. But the information is out in public now. And I just want to make sure I restate this. I did mention on Wednesday I can also understand being in the awful, super shitty position of knowing things, but not being able to do anything about it, not being able to act on it without causing more problems for the victim. Like outing a victim who's not ready to be outed yet. Or forcing the reality on the victim. Sometimes it takes time to get past the point where you just want everything to stay the way it was. Because if anything changes, you have to accept that this really happened. So as long as everybody stays talking to everybody, there's a part of yourself that can kind of block it off for a bit and tell yourself that it didn't really happen. So, in these circumstances, in my reality, again, take it for what you will, the most important person and the person you have to look out for the most is, the target of this shit. The victim, survivor, whichever term you prefer. Because that's a hard road of recovery, and they gotta kind of come to grips with it in their own time. You should never shame the victim into reporting. I mean, look at what fucking happens when people report. So, not all victims are ready to face that. Some never are. Some just kind of convince themselves that it didn't really happen to them. It happened to this person they used to know. So, that's where that's at. Just a slight backpedal. Very slight. And just to put it out there, I didn't do shit for clout. I could not fucking care less. It's a fun word to say, though, isn't it? Clout. It almost sounds like a violent action, which I think is what appeals to me about it. But, so, what else we got to talk about? SCG changed the NV formats from Modern and Standard to Modern and Pioneer, and WotC announced the very next day that they're going to start making BNR updates every Monday for Pioneer. Now, that doesn't mean that every single Monday there will be something new added to the list. But they did state from the get-go that they were going to keep a close eye on that format and be aggressive about correcting problems. Which, I'm sorry for everybody competing in the Invitational at SCGCon, because I'm sure this fucks you up. Tournament schedules aside and everything, I personally, again, as a regular REL F&M hero, prefer this approach to the approach that they took on Modern, to kind of give everything a chance, see what can be dealt with, see what gets answered, and see what develops a stranglehold. I still think the format's too new to really consider bans at this point. I think they should wait until the end of the month of November. Give it some time. Though, I will say MTGO does expedite the timeline for gathering data on the health of the format. Because you don't have to wait for a bunch of paper tournament results to roll in and say, oh shit, Saheeli Cat's still busted in this format. Because so many people play every fucking day on MTGO, you get to see more data, like what's always 5-0ing leagues. Is it consistently the same decks? So, maybe I'm looking at this in too archaic a manner of, you should let it go until there's a few tournament results to compare. But I guess with MTGO, you have that data in just so much faster of a timeline. But I did not make it all the way through the Pioneer Cast episode 2 of the week. I made it through all the way through episode 1. But too many people needed to talk to me at work today. And not going to get a chance to finish it up tonight. Tonight I have to hand out trick-or-treat candy. My township moved it to tonight because we had storms come through last night, and they know better and know that if they don't postpone it, people will take their children out in hurricanes, because why not? But in addition to that, I will be studying the IPG. have another IQ at the LGS tomorrow, and I'm now head judge for it. Yay. Luckily, I got 2 very good judges on kind of speed dial. But we're going to see how well I know Comp REL. Also, the judge that's going to be floor judging with me, I think, has a pretty good handle on Comp REL. So, wish me luck, Super Friends, because this one's going to be interesting. But I want to make sure I don't screw stuff up. Like, I don't want anybody losing their envy because I borked a judge call, you know? It's one thing when shit happens at F&M, it's a whole other bag of cats in this kind of arena. What else do I got? Hoping to see a ban on Oko in Standard after the Mythic Championship. Was that this weekend? No, next weekend. Next weekend, I think. Hi. You really wanted to be in my lane there, huh, Chief? Cool. I am excited, though, because I'm not going to F&M tonight, because Trick or Treat. I may get a chance to go hang out with Epidemic again and play some more Kingdom Death, which I'm actually pretty fucking stoked about. It's a very neat game. What else I got? Man, it's been a big news week in Magic, but it just kind of got overshadowed by this other stuff. I don't know. Domestic violence and sexual assault are like a big fucking deal to me. I would think the reasoning on that's pretty obvious. So this shit always hits pretty hard. There are leaks from the Theros set coming out. They hit one of the Magic Facebook groups I belong to. I'm gonna just wait for official previews and hold out hope that this shit wasn't real, because black. My LGS is starting a weekly Pioneer event. Unfortunately, it's during the week, so damn it. With work and kids and everything, I can't get out there during the week. So, still highly considering firing up the old Moto account and joining one of these card rental services. God, why do digital cards have to be so goddamn expensive? Oh my god, last night, you know, I'm playing on Arena, and I got Oko'd a bunch of Constructed. I'm like, oh, sweet. I got enough gems from the season ending. Man, that season passed fast. I can go draft. I'm gonna go draft. And I'm tired of Oko. Back-to-back opponents drafted Oko. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I came here to get away from this shit. I'd rather get Grooked than Oko. I don't know what happens to the format if they just ban Oko. But I know, like, I've seen talk that maybe they should just ban the Goose so that you can't turn 2 Oko. But seriously, turn 3 Oko is really not much worse than a turn 2 Oko. And the thing is, they're going to keep printing Planeswalkers like this they need to start including more planeswalker removal. Because, yeah, like, creatures, they're soft and squishy. There's just generally so much removal to be had in the format. And granted, you know, different colors have different quality of removal. Like, red's removal is all damage based. So, you don't have a lot of removal for BFCs. The trade-off there is BFCs are usually pretty expensive, so red usually is in burn range by the time their opponent starts getting that kind of shit out. But you still have damage options. You know, black's usually pretty good on removal. White has temporary removal. Sometimes it has good removal, but for the most part, it's pretty temporary. It's the oubliette style, or I guess O-ring style, because that actually was white. Removal, where it's like, alright, we're just gonna hide this under this card for a while until hopefully you don't have any enchantment removal. Green's removal seems largely limited to flyers. Green is pretty good at taking down flyers, and that's about it. But even there, like in this particular format, you've got the fight creatures, and you've got fight cards, which act as quasi-removal spells for creatures. But there's just so little to take care of a planeswalker. And that's really limited. Like, you're looking at mostly white, except for the Murderous Rider adventure. I actually specifically looked at what that was called last night and still can't remember. You know, basically Hero's Downfall. It costs 2 life in addition to everything else. They also need to stop making such good planeswalkers in blue, because that's one of the big problems with the limited planeswalker removal there is. Usually, the most busted-ass planeswalkers are in blue. Like, Nissa is mono-green, but Oko is blue-green, Teferi is blue-white, Narset is blue. But so many of, like, the really high-end planeswalkers, or maybe they just seem like the most high-end planeswalkers because they become very difficult to deal with when playing against the color that runs counterspells. Where you're like, alright, I got my 1 planeswalker removal. Cool, kill your planeswalker. Negate. Fuck. Whereas, you know, other colors, that they don't got a lot to protect their planeswalkers from the things that can target them. But yeah, I still think Oko was a fucking typo. He had to be. It just had to be. So, but, you know, the thing is everybody's like, oh my god, Field of the Dead Golos deck, so horrible, so awful. Oh, it's the worst ever. And we banned Field of the Dead. And now we're in Elk Hell. And what happens when they ban Elk Hell? You know? Brian Gottlieb on the Arena Decklist episode from, it must have been earlier this week, said that, you know, he thought it would have been a much better action to just add Field of Ruin back to the format. So, like, alright, we're gonna pretend Field didn't rotate. And I think that would have been a solid choice. Or can we just, like, make Ghost Quarter evergreen? Every standard has Ghost Quarter. Because it's really not that busted a card. Now, Ghost Quarter can target basics. But in standard, when decks tend to run more basics, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, I think that's where, and that's kind of how I felt about the Field of the Dead deck, that it was an evolution of an existing deck shell that had to change because of rotation, but the basics of the deck were still there. And we lost the most, like, surefire interaction with that deck in Field of Ruin, that it wasn't really surprising that deck bubbled up to the top real fast. But if you look at the results from the Mythic Championship, only one Field of the Dead deck made it to top 8. Meanwhile, Javier's getting the Embercleaved on fucking Arena. I still remember. I remember when that card was previewed, and husband and I both looked at it and was like, wow, that card's bullshit. Like, that card is so fucking bad. Nobody's got to play that shit in Constructed. It's Mythic. What? And Javier's all like, hold my beer. Let me make this a thing. I don't know, can we just restrict Oko? That would be, I think that would work. Can we just add a restricted list to standard? I mean, surely that's not going to cause any problems, right? Surely? I don't know. I hope for things to even out here soon. We've had a couple whiffs, but yeah, it's like I said on the score before, that as painful as it is when the format is this way, they have to kind of keep pushing boundaries to see what will work and what won't. I mean, it sucks when they push that boundary and it snaps and we end up with a situation like we have now. But the game does have to keep evolving. I still kind of maintain, though, that I really wish Bolus would just eat every single planeswalker in the multiverse, since we seem to have forgotten that players are planeswalkers. Just eat them all, and then take a giant food coma style nap for, you know, a millennia or two, and we just don't have planeswalkers anymore. But I think that's like my old self talking. This is not my magic. But anyway, that's where we're at. I don't know what I'm going to talk about on Monday. I'm sure I'll have something. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I will talk to y'all on Monday.